If you had told me that moving back home after college would lead to the most confusing and honestly the most unforgettable summer of my life, I would have laughed in your face. But here we are. It started pretty simple. Rent was a nightmare in this city, and my job search was going nowhere fast. So, like any broke 24-year-old, I packed my things and moved back into my childhood bedroom. Posters still on the walls. Bed way smaller than I remembered. What I didn't expect was to find him still living next door. Evan, the guy the first used to call my best friend. Or at least, we were, until high school happened and everything got complicated. Different colleges, different circles, different lives. I hadn't seen him in years, aside from the occasional glimpse whenever I visited my parents during holidays. But those were always quick, polite waves across the driveway. Nothing more. This time, though, it was different. It started the second day I was back. I was unloading boxes from my car when I heard someone whistle behind me. Well, look who finally decided to show his face again. I turned around, already grinning before I even saw him. And there he was. Evan. Older, taller, broader than I remembered. His dark hair was shorter than back in high school, his jaw sharper, arms toned and tan in the sun. He wore a plain black tank top that hugged his chest a little too well and a pair of faded gym shorts. Evan? I blinked, pretending I wasn't thrown completely off guard by how good he looked. Damn, you grew, he laughed, crossing his arms over his chest. Yeah, man, you didn't. I shoved his shoulder. Screw you. His grin widened. Same old you. We stood there for a second, both smiling, until that awkward, uncertain silence settled. The kind that only happens when too much time has passed, and neither person knows exactly how to bridge the gap. But then he clapped his hands together. You busy? Right now? Yeah. Come help me move some stuff in the garage. I'll owe you. I rolled my eyes, but couldn't help the smile tugging at my lips. Dude, you already owe me for, 7 years of missed texts. Yeah, consider this a down payment. The afternoon passed faster than I expected. We joked, we caught up, and somewhere between hauling boxes and untangling extension cords, it stopped feeling weird. It was like no time had passed at all. You still into video games? He asked, wiping sweat from his forehead. Yeah, I nodded, sitting on the edge of an old workbench. Though I suck at shooters. Perfect, Evan smirked. I'll kick your ass later. You free tonight? I blinked. Yeah, sure. Cool, pizza, drinks, my place. Like old times? His smirk softened into something a little different. Something quieter. Yeah, like old times. That night, sitting side by side on his couch, controllers in hand, half-empty pizza box on the coffee table, it felt comfortable, familiar, until it wasn't. At some point, mid-match, Evan nudged me with his knee. Man, you're so bad at this, embarrassingly bad. Shut up, I grumbled, laughing. It's lag. Sure, blame the lag. He grinned, leaning in a little, close enough that I could smell the faint scent of his cologne mixed with pizza grease and something warmer. Him. My heart did this stupid little skip thing, but I ignored it. Or tried to. But then, without thinking, Evan nudged me again. Harder this time. And I lost my balance, falling back against the couch cushions. He grinned down at me, his knee pressed between my legs, his hand still gripping his controller like nothing was weird about the position at all. I stared up at him, pulse suddenly louder than the game's gunfire. You okay there? He asked, voice low. Yeah, I stammered, trying to play it cool. You just surprised me. His eyes held mine for a second too long. Did I? Neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. Not until the controller slipped from his hand and clattered onto the floor between us. Evan blinked, like he was snapping out of something. Anyway, he mumbled, sitting back. Game still on, but when his knee brushed mine again, he didn't pull it away. The tension didn't leave the room after that. If anything, it thickened, hanging in the air like humidity before a storm. We kept playing. At least we pretended to. Neither of us was really paying attention to the game anymore. His knee stayed pressed against mine, not hard, but firm enough that it was deliberate. Every time I shifted, he shifted right back, like we were locked in this invisible tug-of-war neither of us wanted to acknowledge. When the game ended, neither of us even noticed until the victory screen blared, followed by the menu music looping obnoxiously loud. Evan finally exhaled, leaning forward to grab his controller and set it down. "Thirsty?" he asked, voice weirdly casual but just a little tight. "Yeah, sure." He stood up, stretched, and I tried not to stare when his shirt rode up, flashing a hint of skin above his waistband. Then he padded off toward the kitchen. I sat there, staring at the paused game menu like it was gonna offer me some kind of explanation for what the hell was happening. Was this just old friend stuff? Some weird straight boy roughhousing? Or was it something else? When Evan came back, he handed me a beer and sat down way closer than before. Our knees were touching again. This time, there was no pretending it was accidental. For a minute, we just sat like that, sipping our beers in silence, the only sound coming from the low hum of the fridge and the faint buzz of the summer cicadas outside. Then, out of nowhere, Evan broke the silence. "You ever think about?" He stopped, drumming his fingers against the side of his bottle. "About, I don't know, stuff. From back then." My throat tightened. "Back when?" "Like, high school. Before everything got busy." I shrugged, playing it safe. "Sometimes," he nodded, looking down at his beer, then back up at me. His eyes were softer now, searching. "I always wondered why we stopped hanging out." That one hit me. "Yeah, me too." Another pause. A long one. Then, quieter, he said, "It wasn't just college, was it?" I swallowed, gripping my beer tighter. "No, I guess not." His eyes flicked to my lips, just for a second, and back to my eyes. And suddenly it was like the air snapped tight between us, like a rubber band pulled to its limit. Evan set his beer down on the coffee table. I did too. Neither of us said a word. And then, God help me, he leaned in. It wasn't fast, wasn't rushed, just this slow, cautious tilt forward, like he was giving me every possible second to pull away. But I didn't. I couldn't. My body was frozen, pulse hammering so loud I was sure he could hear it. His hand brushed my knee, fingers curling, not gripping, but testing. And then his lips brushed mine, barely. Like a question. A soft inhale escaped me, half shock, half something else entirely. I didn't even realize I'd grabbed his shirt until I felt the fabric clenched in my fist. He pulled back a fraction, just enough that our noses bumped. "Is this okay?" he asked, voice rough, barely above a whisper. I didn't answer. I just leaned forward and kissed him. This time, it wasn't a brush. It was real. Clumsy at first. All nervous energy and years of unspoken tension unraveling at once. His hand slid up, cupping the back of my neck, fingers threading into my hair. I felt him breathe against my lips, shaky and uneven, like he was just as stunned as I was that this was actually happening. When we finally broke apart, foreheads pressed together, neither of us spoke right away. Evan chuckled softly, his thumb tracing my jaw. "Dude, what the hell are we doing?" I laughed, breathless. "I have no idea." And for the first time in years, it felt exactly right. We stayed like that for a while, foreheads pressed together, his hands still cradling the back of my neck. My fingers bunched into the fabric of his shirt like I was afraid that if I let go, this would vanish. That I'd blink and realize I'd imagined the whole thing. But it was real. I could feel it, in the way his thumb brushed absently against my jaw, in the shaky way he exhaled, like he was still figuring out whether to be nervous, excited, or both. I was right there with him. "Okay," Evan finally said, his voice cracking into a nervous laugh. "So, that happened." "Yeah," I breathed, leaning back just enough to look him in the eyes. "Yeah, it did. He rubbed the back of his neck, looking anywhere but directly at me. You good? I mean, yeah, are you? His eyes darted to mine, then down to my lips, then back up. I don't really know, but I don't hate it. A laugh escaped me, half disbelief, half relief. That's good. Yeah. His grin tugged at one corner of his mouth. Yeah, it is. Then silence again. Not the bad kind. The kind that's full of something thick and electric. Possibility. Evan reached down for his beer, took a quick sip, then set it back down. His knee pressed against mine again. Still deliberate. Still no accident. You ever? He started, then stopped. What? I nudged him. You ever, wondered? What it'd be like? He wasn't looking at me. He was staring at his hands like they held the answer. I swallowed. You mean, with a guy? He nodded slowly. Yeah. I was quiet for a second. Then, yeah, I have. He blinked, looking at me like he wasn't expecting me to say that. Really? I laughed under my breath. Dude, you were my first crush, back in high school. His eyes widened. No way, shut up. Swear to God, no way. He laughed, shaking his head, like it was the most unbelievable thing he'd ever heard. Damn, if I'd known. He didn't finish that sentence, but his hand found mine, fingers brushing first, then curling around my palm, slow and cautious. Testing. Neither of us pulled away. Look, Evan said after a moment. I don't know what this means. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never, Yeah, I nodded. Same. But I want to figure it out. His grip tightened, just barely. With you. My chest tightened in the best way possible. Yeah, me too. Evan grinned. Cool. He squeezed my hand again. Wanna stay? Hang out? Maybe talk about it? I squeezed back. Yeah, or... His eyebrow lifted. Or? I shifted closer. Or we could figure it out, without the talking part. His grin split wide, nervous and mischievous at the same time. Yeah, okay. And this time when he kissed me, it wasn't cautious. It wasn't nervous. It was real. Hungry. Messy. Like we were both making up for years of pretending this didn't exist between us. At some point, we ended up tangled on the couch. His legs sprawled over mine, my hand under his shirt, fingers brushing warm skin, his thumb tracing lazy circles along my wrist. It was weirdly natural, like this was always supposed to happen, and the universe was just waiting for us to catch up. When we finally broke apart, both breathless and grinning like idiots, Evan leaned his head back against the cushion and sighed. Dude, he laughed. I cannot believe this is real. Yeah, I chuckled, wiping a thumb across the corner of his mouth. Same. A comfortable silence settled. Then Evan glanced at me, smirked and said, So, you still suck at shooters. I shoved him. Shut up. The next morning hit like a weird mix of surreal and perfectly normal. I woke up tangled in Evan's couch blanket, head resting against his shoulder, his arm draped lazily around me. For a split second, my brain did that panicked, where am I thing, and then it clicked. Oh right, this happened. This actually happened. Evan stirred, groaning softly, squeezing me closer like his body realized I was there before his brain caught up. What time is it? His voice was rough with sleep, stupidly deep in a way that sent a shiver down my spine. I fumbled for my phone. 9:12. Ugh, too early, he mumbled, tightening his grip like that was gonna somehow fix it. I snorted. then let go. Nah, I laughed, trying to shift, but his grip didn't budge. If anything, it pulled me more snug against him. His breath was warm against the side of my neck. This is weird, I muttered, my voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, Evan agreed quietly, but kinda nice. I didn't say anything to that, mostly because I agreed. Partly because my heart was doing this ridiculous thing where it felt like it was trying to sprint straight out of my chest. Eventually, we did have to get up, mainly because his mom texted him, bringing by a package later. Be home. Love you. We both stared at the text, like it was a grenade. Oh, crap, Evan muttered, running a hand through his hair. Wait, she still has a key, right? I asked, suddenly sitting upright. Yeah, she does. Dude, I hissed, flailing for my shoes. Do we look like this? Evan laughed, rubbing the back of his neck. Like what? Two dudes hanging out? Yeah, super casual, I deadpanned, motioning between us. Totally normal to wake up half-cuddled on your childhood best friend's couch. Hey, maybe it's normal where you're from, he joked, grinning, but there was an edge of nervousness in his voice too. I shoved his shoulder. Shut up. We scrambled around, fixing pillows, folding the blanket, wiping pizza boxes off the table, like two guilty teenagers cleaning up before their parents came home. But even with the sudden chaos, the weirdness of it, it felt good, like this secret little thing we were both suddenly part of. When the knock came, we both froze mid-step. Evan opened the door, doing his best casual lean against the frame. Hey, Mom. His mom, cheerful as always, breezed in with a smile. Morning. Oh, hello. She blinked when she saw me. Look who's back, I grinned, trying not to look like someone who had made out with her son on his couch less than 12 hours ago. Hey, Mrs. Davis. Good to see you, she said warmly, setting a box on the kitchen counter. Wow, you two look cozy. My heart immediately dropped into my stomach. Does she know? Did she see? Did we forget something? Oh, God. Evan chuckled a little too quickly. Yeah, we were just catching up. She nodded, completely oblivious. That's nice. You boys used to be inseparable. Glad to see some things don't change. I shot Evan a look over her shoulder. His grin was smug. When she left, Evan closed the door, locked it, and turned around, leaning his back against it. We stared at each other. Then we both burst out laughing. Half relief, half nerves, half what the hell is even our life right now? When the laughter died down, Evan crossed the room, stood in front of me, and hooked his thumbs into his pockets. So, what now? He asked, quieter. I swallowed. I don't know. He scratched his jaw, thinking. Look, I'm not gonna pretend I've got this all figured out. I don't. But I do know one thing. Yeah? His gaze held mine. I don't want to go back to pretending none of this happened. My chest tightened. Me neither. His smile was crooked. Cool. So, you wanna, figure it out? Together? I grinned, stepping closer. Yeah, definitely. Evan grabbed my hand again. Just like last night. But this time, it wasn't hesitant. It was sure. And it felt perfect. The next few weeks were weird. In the best possible way. It was like we'd unlocked this secret version of our friendship. One where knees brushing on the couch wasn't accidental. Where lingering stares meant something. Where late-night hangouts turned into slow kisses, whispered jokes into hands on shoulders, and sometimes hands somewhere else entirely. But during the day, we were still just us. It was like this bubble only existed when it was just the two of us. No labels, no rules. No one knew. Not our parents, not his coworkers, not my old friends. It was our thing. One Friday afternoon, I was helping Evan clean out his garage, which, honestly, was mostly just me sitting on a toolbox while he sorted through a mountain of sports gear, tangled cords, and boxes labeled Evan's crap, do not throw out. So, he started casually, tossing a football from one hand to the other. I was thinking, dangerous, I teased. He smirked. Shut up. I was thinking, you want to maybe do something tomorrow? I raised an eyebrow. We do stuff like every day. No, I mean, not here. Like, go somewhere. Oh, I blinked. Like a date? He scratched the back of his neck. I mean, yeah, if you want it to be. My chest tightened, and I could feel this dumb grin spreading on my face before I could stop it. Yeah, I want it to be. Evan let out a breath, like he'd been holding it in for the last 5 minutes. Cool, awesome. Where were you thinking? Lake, he said simply. You remember that spot? The one we used to sneak out to? Oh, the one where you almost drowned trying to impress that girl back in 10th grade? He groaned, rubbing his face. Bro, don't bring that up. I was young and stupid. I laughed. Well, I'm in. Lake day it is. The next day was perfect. Clear skies. Warm sun. Evan loaded up his truck with an obnoxious amount of snacks, a cooler, towels, and a portable speaker. When I climbed in, he grinned, reaching over to squeeze my thigh before pulling onto the road like it was the most normal thing in the world. That drive. God, that drive. Windows down, music blaring, his hand occasionally sliding from the gear shift to my leg, neither of us saying anything about it, just smiling like idiots. When we got there, the lake was quiet, just a couple of boats out in the distance, birds skimming the water. We found the same little cove we used to claim as kids. Evan tossed his shirt off, kicked off his shoes, and jogged straight into the water without a second thought. I stood there for a second, staring after him, watching the way the sunlight caught his shoulders, the muscles in his back shifting as he dove under the surface. God, I'm so screwed. Yo, he called, splashing water in my direction. You coming? Or are you just gonna stand there checking me out? I felt my face flush. Shut up. But yeah, I ran straight in after him. The afternoon blurred into this perfect mix of swimming, wrestling in the water, floating on our backs while the clouds drifted by. At one point, I climbed onto this old, half-submerged log to dry off, sitting there with my knees pulled up, just watching him tread water. Evan swam closer, resting his arms on the log between us. His smile softened, less teasing, more something else. You know, I miss this, he said quietly. Yeah, me too. His fingers brushed mine. Testing. Always testing. I didn't move away. Is this the part where we have, like, the deep conversation? I asked, trying to play it off. Evan laughed, shaking his head. Nah, I think this is the part where I do this. And then, yep, he pulled himself halfway up the log and kissed me. Sun on our backs, water lapping at the wood, his hands warm against my thighs, my fingers curling into the damp fabric of his swim trunks. When we finally broke apart, he grinned against my lips. Damn. Yeah, I breathed. Same. We stayed there until the sun started to dip below the tree line, casting everything in gold. Neither of us wanted to leave. Not yet. But as we packed up the truck later, tossing wet towels into the back seat, Evan suddenly paused. He turned, stepped close, and cupped my jaw, thumb tracing my cheek. Hey, he said softly. I really like this. I like you. My breath caught. I like you too, he smiled, forehead resting against mine. Cool. Just wanted to say it. As we pulled away from the lake, his hand found mine again. And this time, neither of us let go. The thing about falling for your best friend? It sneaks up on you. One minute you're laughing over inside jokes that no one else would ever understand, teasing each other over stupid memories from high school. And the next, You're realizing you've memorized the way his eyelashes catch the sunlight, the exact pitch of his laugh when you manage to surprise him, and how perfectly your hand fits in his. Yeah, I was completely screwed. The Monday after our lake day was the first time the real world tried to creep back in. Evan had to go back to work at the local mechanic shop, and I was knee-deep in job applications, which meant, for the first time in a while, we weren't attached at the hip all day. But that didn't stop him from texting me every half hour. Evan, miss me yet? Me. Dude, you literally left like 40 minutes ago. Evan, didn't answer the question. I grinned like an idiot at my phone, sitting cross-legged on my childhood bed, surrounded by a sea of half-unpacked boxes. Yeah. I missed him. That night, Evan swung by my house like it was the most normal thing in the world. No warning, just a text that said, "Come outside," followed by a single car horn beep. I padded out barefoot, expecting him to be leaning against his truck like always. But no, the passenger door was wide open, and he was sitting behind the wheel, one hand lazily draped over the steering wheel, the other patting the seat beside him. "Get in," he grinned. Okay. What are we doing?" "You'll see." Turns out You'll See was a late-night drive with no real destination. Windows down, radio low, the hum of the engine filling the spaces between soft conversation and comfortable silences. At one point, we stopped at a gas station to load up on snacks, 2 slushies, a pack of sour worms, and a bag of those chips that leave your fingers radioactive orange for days. We sat on the hood of his truck under the gas station lights, feet dangling, passing the sour worms back and forth. "So," he said, nudging me with his shoulder, "my coworker asked if I'm seeing anyone." I blinked. "Oh?" "Yeah," I told him. "Kinda." He glanced at me, chewing on the end of a gummy worm. Told him, "It's complicated." My stomach flipped. "Complicated?" He laughed. "Not in a bad way, just, I don't even know what this is yet. Like, what are we?" I shifted, picking at the wrapper in my hands. "Yeah, I've been wondering the same thing." He went quiet for a second, then nudged me again. "I mean, do we have to figure it out right now?" I shook my head. "No, I don't think so." Evan smiled, soft and easy. "Good. 'Cause I'm kinda liking just being with you." "Yeah," I agreed, leaning my head against his shoulder. "Me too." When we finally headed back, he didn't drop me at my driveway. He pulled right into it, parked, then looked over at me like he was still debating something. You want to stay at mine tonight?" he asked, his voice softer now. My heart jumped. Yeah, I do." Cool," he muttered, scrubbing a hand over the back of his neck. "Didn't wanna, assume." I laughed, leaning over to press a quick kiss to his jaw. "You can assume." His eyes fluttered shut for a second. "Yeah, dangerous game, dude." We ended up back at his place, tangled up in his ridiculously soft sheets, limbs overlapping like we'd done this 1,000 times before. Except, we hadn't. Not really. Not like this. It was different. Not rushed. Not frantic. Just warm. Soft. Hands tracing skin like we were both learning each other from the ground up. At one point, I rolled onto my side, tracing the line of his shoulder, his collarbone. "You know," I whispered, "I never imagined, back in high school, that this would ever happen." Evan chuckled, his fingers skimming my waist. "Yeah, me neither. But I'm glad it did." He shifted closer, burying his face against my neck. "Me too," he mumbled, voice muffled. "So glad." And as we drifted off, wrapped around each other, all I could think was, yeah, this feels right. Completely, stupidly, perfectly right. The shift didn't happen all at once. It was slow, subtle, But it was there. Little things started changing, like how Evan's hand always seemed to find mine when we walked anywhere now. Like how he didn't hesitate to drape an arm over my shoulders if we were sitting together on the porch or waiting in line at the coffee shop. And like how neither of us even flinched when one of the old neighbors spotted us laughing too close, leaning into each other like, yeah, not just friends. The big shift, though? That came one afternoon, about 2 weeks later. We were lying on his couch, me scrolling through job listings on my laptop, him flicking through some dumb reality show on mute while absent-mindedly running his fingers up and down my forearm. That's when his phone buzzed. He groaned. Ugh, my sister. Hold on, I smirked. Tell her I said hi. Oh, she's probably just gonna... He swiped to answer, putting the phone to his ear. Hey, yeah. No, just chillin'. Yeah, actually, Dylan's here. He glanced at me, smiling softly, then paused. No, yeah, like, we're kinda together. Sort of. My heart stopped. He said it like it was the most casual thing in the world, but I could hear the nerves sneaking into his voice. The way his fingers squeezed mine a little tighter, like he was grounding himself. Yeah, no, it's not a joke. Yeah, I'm serious, he laughed, glancing down at me, biting his lip. I know, yeah, it's new, I guess, but it's real. I blinked, mouth falling slightly open. He was telling her. Just like that, no hesitation, no fear. Yeah, come by whenever, he finished. All right, later. When he hung up, he let out a breath and turned to me. So, that happened. Dude. I stared at him, stunned. Did you just come out? To your sister? He laughed nervously. Yeah, I guess I did. Just like that, he shrugged, pulling me closer. Felt right. I don't know. I don't want to hide this. Hide you. My heart did a stupid little flip. Evan, his thumb brushed my jaw. Is that okay? I pulled him in and kissed him. Soft, slow, meaningful. Yeah, it's more than okay, and that set something off. The next day, his sister came over, bringing iced coffee and a hug that made it very clear she didn't care who I was dating, as long as her brother was smiling like this. After that, the rest kinda snowballed. His coworkers found out, mostly because one of them caught him scrolling through pictures of us at the lake on his break. My parents, well, that was a whole different conversation, but it was easier than I expected. They already loved Evan, always had. Evan grinned after we told them. Guess I've been the favorite son-in-law since before we even knew. But the real moment, the one that felt like this is it, this is real, came one random Friday evening. We were sitting out on the back deck, watching the sunset, beers in hand. The sky was that perfect gradient of purple and gold, cicadas buzzing somewhere in the distance. Evan nudged me with his knee. Hey, yeah? He glanced down, fiddling with the label on his bottle. You thinking of sticking around? I mean, not just for the summer. My stomach tightened. You want me to? His gaze snapped up, eyes earnest. Yeah, I do. I mean, if you want to. I get it if you don't, but I don't want to go back to how it was before. I don't want to go back to not having you around. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Then I set my beer down, grabbed his hand, and squeezed. Yeah, Evan, I'm sticking around. His grin was slow, wide, perfect. Yeah. Evan leaned in, pressing his forehead to mine. Cool. And as the sun disappeared below the tree line, his fingers laced through mine, our shoulders pressed together, and for the first time in a long time, everything felt exactly where it was supposed to be. Life didn't magically turn into some perfect fairy tale after that. We still argued over dumb things, Like whether pineapple belonged on pizza, it absolutely does, or whose turn it was to take out the trash. It was always mine, apparently. We still had awkward moments explaining to older neighbors why Evan was holding my hand while mowing the lawn. But yeah, it was real. And it was ours. A couple of weeks later, we were sprawled out on the living room floor, half buried in moving boxes, unpacking the stuff I brought over from my parents' house. "You sure you're ready for this?" I asked, holding up a box labeled kitchen crap in my terrible handwriting. Evan grinned, leaning back on his palms. "Bro, we've basically been living together since the night we kissed on this couch." "True," I chuckled, tossing the box aside. "But you realize this means I get half the closet, right?" His face scrunched. Damn, should have negotiated that before the kissing started. I crawled over, grabbing the front of his hoodie, and pulled him down for a kiss. Too late now. When we pulled apart, Evan's grin softened. "No, but seriously, you being here, full time, feels right." "Yeah," I agreed, brushing my thumb over his jaw. "It really does." That night, as we sat on the couch, our couch, eating takeout straight from the boxes, I caught him staring. "What?" I asked, mouth full of lo mein. He shrugged, looking weirdly nervous. "I was just thinking. Dangerous." "Shut up," he chuckled, nudging my foot with his. Then his gaze got serious again. "It's just, I never thought, like, you and me? I didn't know life could feel this good." My throat tightened. "Yeah, same." A pause. Then, softly, "I love you, you know." It hit me like a punch to the chest, not because I didn't feel it too, but because I absolutely did. I set my chopsticks down, scooted closer, and cupped his face. "Yeah, I love you too." The way his smile broke across his face in that moment. Man, I'll never forget it. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was better. It was real. Messy, goofy, imperfect, and completely, absolutely perfect. Evan and me, best friends, roommates, idiots in love, forever.